responsibly.
But Mr. Obama is punting for now on whether federal funds can be used to experiment on embryos themselves, an issue that will be hotly debated on Capitol Hill in the months ahead.
Ed, overturning the ban was an Obama campaign promise. Is he trying to send a message here?
He is, beyond just the stem cell policy. During the campaign, he also charged that the Bush administration was putting ideology over science, government science, not just on stem cells, but also issues like global warming. So he is trying to send a signal here to government scientists that, look, this administration will back you up no matter what the facts say, Anderson.
All right, Ed Henry, the White House. Ed, thanks. We're going to talk with our own Dr. Sanjay Gupta later tonight. For President Obama, it was stem cells today, education reform on tap for tomorrow. The president calls it keeping campaign promises, but others say he should focus on just one thing, the economy. Today, billionaire Warren Buffett said the economy has fallen off a cliff. He called on the president to step up his game and sharpen his focus.
What is required is a commander-in-chief that is looked at as being the commander-in-chief in a time of war, the only authoritative voice in the United States who says, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're not going to do, and very specifically, is the President of the United States.
Warren Buffett calling what we're facing an economic Pearl Harbor. Republican Senator Richard Shelby, meantime, calling for cutting our losses when it comes to basket case banks. He says let them fail. Listen.
Some of these banks should be closed. Will they cost money to close? Will they send shockwaves through the system? Absolutely. But if you keep subsidizing banks, when do you stop?
Close them down. Get them out of business. If they're dead, they ought to be buried. We bury the small banks, we've got to bury some big ones and send a strong message to the market.
He sent a pretty strong message himself. Our question tonight, is your money, is it being wasted, as Senator Shelby believes? Are banks lending yet? Ali Velshi here to follow the money with a fact check on banks and the economy. So, Ali, Americans are worried that they can't get loans. Where do things actually stand? I've heard conflicting reports. Are banks actually lending?
Yeah, there are conflicting reports. In fact, that's part of the issue. One of the things is that there is money flowing better than it was back in September and October, the height of the credit crisis, but it's not necessarily flowing to personal loans. So the people who think they're not getting it are right. A lot of personal loans, a lot of mortgages, auto loans, and small business loans are not getting done. And that's part of the problem right now. So banks are lending, but loans are harder to come by, and in some cases you need a higher credit score and the rates are higher, Anderson. So if you're getting conflicting reports, that's because there is conflicting information about whether or not lending has started again.
Okay, now taxpayers, we are the ones who are footing the bill to help these financial systems. Are Americans getting a return on that, or is that money gone? I mean, have they lost their money?
Well, you know, this money was structured, and this is what we call TARP. It's the bailout that was passed in October, $700 billion. It's hard to keep track of all the money that's going on. The issue is that taxpayers do get a return for this money. The money that's loaned to banks basically gets an 8 or 9% interest rate. The issue, of course, is that you may not have chosen to give them your money, so your money has some risk exposed to it. But in fact, if those banks are able to repay, the return is probably better than anything you can get out there at 8 or 9%. The issue is, are the banks going to be able to repay your money? Your money's at risk, but you are earning something on it, Anderson.
So far, the government's put $11 trillion in the financial system. It's spent billions buying stakes in big banks like Citigroup. I think they own now 36% of Citigroup stock. Are the banks really being nationalized? I mean, is that effective nationalization?
Well, it depends how you define nationalization. If the government controls a bank, then they are nationalized. The issue is that sometimes we associate nationalization with what may have happened in Cuba or in Venezuela, where the government seizes what was otherwise private property and makes it the property of the government. There is no seizure going on. Everything that's being done, including the 36% ownership in Citigroup, is done at the behest of the bank. So if the U.S. taxpayer ends up owning more than 50% of a given bank, and that is certainly a possibility with a bank like Citigroup, I suppose you could call that nationalization. We just have to understand this is not the government, as a matter of policy, seizing a private enterprise and taking ownership of it so they can control what happens. This is a matter of the government being the only body with enough money at their disposal to be able to finance a bank right now, Anderson.
All right, Ali, thanks very much. Ali Velshi, give us your take on the economy, how the government is doing. Let us know. Join the live chat happening now at ac360.com, and check out Erica Hill's live webcast during the breaks tonight. Up next, our panel weighs in on whether the president's trying to do too much